A long career, a long career, over 20 years of service as our
22.
representative. 22. Thank you, sir. 22 years of service. There is a litany. I think it was 87 bills that
87 bills.
87 bills. That is a lot of work, sir. A
A
lot of
lot of work
good work.
and good bills too. Um, I don't know what the format of your program is, but um, I don't know if we just conversating or you're going to ask me questions. I'm not sure
We're
how this
gonna
works.
we're gonna ask questions. So generally, what happens? We have some of the community join us. I ask you a few questions, and then I open it to the floor. We ask that everyone be respectful and give you a chance to respond and keep it within bounds. Like I said, my whole goal, as we were talking about earlier before you joined us, Representative Bruce, is just to give you a voice to all the voters who are looking at different candidates, trying to make up their mind on who to vote for. This election's already kind of different and special, like the
Yeah.
title says, special election, and it can be a little
Hmm.
confusing. I can tell you that even when we went and voted, my wife was helping other people figure out where they got to go. We had to go to separate lines, so that's why this is
Right.
a good opportunity for you to be able to
It's
reach out.
very confusing for people.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But I will say that I have gotten your mailers, so I love it. And one of them right here, you actually have the locations and stuff under the vote
Right.
and information. So you are doing everything possible to help us make it through this confusing period.
Okay.
So one of the questions I want to definitely ask you off the top is, after you retired, you came back out of retirement to run for this seat. What are some of the reasons what's driving that desire to once again offer your services to this community who is really
Well,
great?
when you spend 22 years of your life doing anything, um, it becomes very special and important to you. I was not anticipating that the former senator was going to resign. But when he did resign, and the governor was contemplating setting the special election, it was not a very long period of time between the announcement and the election day.
Mhm.
And one of the things that was driving me was I just didn't feel like it was enough time for people to really vet candidates and make sure that they're picking someone that really understands what this job is, understands what has to be done. And I did not want to see somebody selected because they live next door to Aunt Sally or because they go to the same church or all of the reasons why people seem to vote, not for this election. I don't know if you're aware, but the state budget is going to be close to $72 billion. It's a lot of money. And you got to have somebody there that knows that process. I spent 12 years on the committee in the House that dealt with putting the budget together. And so my thought process, in all candor, was let me go in, try to fill this unexpired term, make sure that the citizens have somebody there that knows the process and knows how to work it, and then give citizens a chance to be able to vet the candidates and pick someone who long term is qualified. And it's a little selfish on my part too, because I want to make sure that whoever's representing me knows what the heck they're doing. And it's this is not a game, and you've been at this a while, and you know that people will vote for people not knowing anything about them,
No.
and and I just didn't want to see that happen. I wanted to make sure that there was ample time to vet candidates and pick someone long term
Yes.
that could do this. But while you're doing that, you have somebody there that knows what they're doing. I mean, I'm just being real candid about it. That's it. I've
Yeah.
heard that people or suggesting that I'm holding the position for somebody else. But I mean, you're smart enough to know I can't appoint somebody to this position. Whoever gets this has to run for it
Yes.
and has to, compete.
Yep.
But it will give you time to decide, who is the right person for it and be
Right.
able to ask the questions. When you have these forums, um, I really don't like the forums, to be honest with you, because what you end up with is people sitting up there. You ask them to come up with something in a 2 minute.
Format.
You say give it 2 minutes, and then you shut them up. But all you're getting is a soundbite in that two
Hmm.
minutes. You're not really getting depth. You're not getting, what this person is going to do. And just as I do, people will make up all kinds of stuff.
Yep.
And then if you don't have an opportunity to say, if they say, give you a perfect example, people all often ask, we need a hospital, okay,
Yep.
in our area. And you ask the candidate, says, oh yeah, I'm going to get you a hospital. But the follow-up to that should be, well, how are you going to do that? And very seldom do you get that
Yeah.
part of it. And most people don't realize we don't really have any public hospitals in Georgia. Everybody thinks Grady's a public hospital, but Grady is a privately owned hospital that has a contract with two counties to provide services to indigent people. And and then you have to go through a very long process to determine whether or not you have a certificate of need and all the other things that are associated with it. But my point is that you want to have somebody that really
Understand the role.
understands and knows this process.
No,
That's
Representative Bruce, that's a great point because that's one of the other questions I had for you because I think you partially answered it where you know the difference between being a representative and being a state senator, there are slight differences, and there are certain things that I know you understand because you served for us for so long. Can you at least highlight one other thing and one other area you think as a state senator someone should really know what they're doing or have a clear vision and passion for what they want to do? Because you can also not have the experience, but have a clarity to see how you will get there. Like you say, how would you get there? Like,
Yeah. There's not a significant amount of difference between the two. Any bill that passes the House has to go through the Senate. Any bill that goes through the Senate has to go through the House. The budget starts in the House, and then it goes to the Senate, and you make the changes, and you go back and forth. Uh, the biggest difference between the two is the amount of area that you have a responsibility for.
Mhm.
The Senate districts are 3 times the size of the House districts, but there's not a significant amount of difference. The bills are processed pretty much the same way. You get your ideas, whatever they are. One of the things that I am going to focus on in that period of time that I am there would be around voting rights. As you probably saw, we had the current president go on TV in Pennsylvania and say he could not have won the election if not for the knowledge that Musk had of the voting machines and computers. Did you hear that speech?
Yes, sir.
What does that mean? What did he tell you? It sounded like he told me he rigged the election. And and we also know that he called our Secretary of State asking him to give him some votes. So I would like to see legislation and money in the budget to step up the process of monitoring the polling places to make sure that that does not happen again or happen here, and to make sure that people have um, a easy time of voting. I don't know if you're aware. I submitted a piece of legislation that would allow people to vote at any precinct on election day. I really
Right.
don't understand, and nobody's been able to explain it to me, why we can early vote for 2 weeks anywhere and we can only vote in one place on election day. I'm not sure I understand that. No one has been able to explain it to me. And with computers as we have now, we can send a man to the moon, but we can't vote in any polling place.
I
Makes no
totally
sense to
agree with
me.
you on that one. Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one because I myself, I'm an early voter. Sometimes I only waited to vote on November 4th because that was my birthday, and I thought it'd be a really cool thing to do. Every couple of years, it falls on my birthday, so I wanted to vote
Hmm.
my birthday. But yeah, I mean, we love early voting, my wife and I. So I saw the interview where you spoke about that bill actually, and I thought it made sense to me. I mean, it just, but I know there is a concerted effort to speak to your point, to tamper down their ability for us to easily vote.
Right.
And so I think that's a great point that you're making as far as like what you want to focus on. Is there any other areas you want to focus on, especially because you're now going to be slightly different where you were contained within Fulton County, within a set district, like you said,
Well,
but
no,
now you
I
got to
was not
fill two.
contained in Fulton County. I had Douglas County also.
Oh, that's right. You did have Douglas County when the seats was drawn.
Yeah,
Um,
I had Douglas County for most of the time I was there, along with Fulton County and parts of the city of Atlanta. And I had one precinct in Cobb County,
nice.
and but it was only one precinct. And but you have those issues. You have the issue around um, the the whole idea of being a representative or a senator is to listen to people. I don't know if you remember, there was a piece of legislation that came about as a result of a 10-year-old contacted me. Do you know about that
Oh, I
legislation?
didn't hear about that one.
Yeah, there was, I enjoy going to the schools and talking to the kids. I want to make sure that they know how this process works too. So I spent a lot of time talking to elementary and middle school age kids about the legislative process and how it works. But anyway, I was speaking at A. Philip Randolph Elementary School.
Mhm.
And when I left there, one of the students called me and he said, Representative Bruce, I have a bill I want you to pass. And I was fascinated by the fact that he was even paying attention. And I told him to tell me what it was. He said, come back to the school. And when you come back to the school, then I'll tell you. He didn't even want to tell me on the phone. And so I get back to the school and go into the cafeteria, and the place was filled. He had the principal, other teachers, students, the whole room was filled up.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, what is this bill? And but he wanted his parents to be able to come to his school without their jobs being put at risk.
Wow.
Apparently, where they worked, and we checked it out, they did not give the employees vacation time, and they didn't really give them time off. And if you took the time, then you got fired. And so we put in legislation uh, to where they could not do that. And the legislation came to be known as the Parent Protection Act.
Mm.
And what ended up happening is that the students, we got them to come to the Capitol and they became lobbyists for their bill. And we had them go around talking to people about the bill, everything else. And there's a closed circuit TV system at the school. And every morning, the kids became reporters and they would report on the status of their bill. And the whole school got involved in this kid's idea of getting his parents there. And when that bill passed out of the house, it was up in all the gallery in the back of the building
Yeah.
was packed. It was full with students. And it was students from all over the place
Wow.
because they had organized and talked to people. And these were 10-year-olds. So when you talk about being proud of something, I'm very proud of that, because now some of those kids are going to go out and they're going to be involved in the process, and they were educated and they learned, and those are going to be good citizens. And
That
that is something that I plan to do again when I get back down there. I've already started talking with the schools, and I've already started talking with others to try to get them to find students that may have an idea for a piece of legislation and take them through the process. I think that's important to do.
Oh, that is important. I love that. I mean, I worked down at the Capitol for 12 years with Superior Court judges, so I know how tight the balconies are upstairs.
Yep,
It's I could just I'm just visualizing that being full with students and how effective that was because I
yep.
think one of the things, one of the questions I definitely wanted to ask you, which I think you were a great candidate for this, is the collaboration factor that it takes. And that's one of the things I always ask candidates, like, do you realize you can't just say, I will, I will, I will. It's we will. How will you
We
get
will.
other folks to collaborate with you?
Exactly.
And I definitely felt like you know how to do that. And
Well, I've done it. That's the thing. If you want an example of another piece of legislation that
yes,
gets to your
sir.
point, there was a lady that came to see me, and her husband had been beating her up pretty bad.
Mm,
And she said, one day I just had enough, and she beat the crap out of him. And the police ended up arresting her for
mm.
beating him up. And when you get arrested, they took your mugshot and put your mugshot out on the internet. And until you went through trial and did all that stuff. So she went through all of that. And basically, the judge said she should have beat you up a long time ago, and he threw the case out. And when he did that, she asked the county to take her mugshot down, and they did. But before they got it down, these other little rogue companies out there, they took it down off of the sheriff's site and put it up on their site.
Mm.
And when she asked them to take it down, they told her, send me $500 and we'll take it down. She sent them $500. They took it down, created a new site, and put it back up. And so that's when she came to see me. So we decided, okay, we're going to introduce legislation that will make it illegal to charge to take these mugshots down off the internet. The idea being, if you couldn't charge to take them down, what's the point of putting them up? That was the
Right.
idea behind it. And in order to get that to pass, I had to go and find me some kids that had Republican moms and dads
Yep.
that had mugshots out on the internet. And that's what we did. And we went and we talked to legislators. I found a couple of them that had kids that had mugshots. And I asked, I said, is this what you want? Do you want to do this? And they said, well, we didn't realize that's how it was working. And we got you. And we made it a joint bipartisan legislation. And
Wow.
now it is illegal to charge to take mugshots down off of the internet. So that's another example. If you want one more, I can give you one more.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Oh, well, I also represent Bruce. I want to give the audience a chance if they have any
okay,
questions as well too.
okay.
Because I
But
mean, I'm
to
loving this.
me, if I can give you examples of
Yes,
things
sir.
that have done, I'm not promising what I'm gonna do. I'm promising what I've already done. And then we can keep going.
Yes, sir.
But I was out visiting folks in the neighborhood, and I knocked on this lady's door. She said, "Mr. Bruce, I've been waiting on you to come," which kind of threw me because I didn't know she knew I was coming. And but she invited me into her house, and she showed me the kitchen, and the kitchen was totally empty, nothing in it.
Mm,
And I said, "Well, where is everything?" She said, "It's in the backyard." And a contractor had come to see her and said that he could redo her kitchen for $30,000. And she gave him the $30,000. He took everything out and then said, "Well, if you want me to put it back, it's going to cost you another $30,000." I underestimated what it was going to cost. This lady didn't have another $30,000. So the legislation that I introduced to try to satisfy that was to allow contractors to be licensed. And
mhm.
if they got the license, that means they were vetted, they went through a process, and there was ways to get back at them if there was something wrong. And so you don't have to have a license, but if you have one, it says that you went through this vetting process. So you, as the consumer, can ask, do you have a license? And if they do, then you can feel comfortable that they've been vetted. And if they don't, you can still hire them, but you do it at your own risk. And that, in order to get that bill passed, I had to get Republicans to agree with it. And I did. In fact, I ended up with a Republican as my co-signer on the bill. And that's what you have to do. And then sometimes you have to do some other things. But I tell everybody you have to stay in the lane. And I compare this to a baseball game. You follow baseball at all?
Yes, I do.
9 players on the team, right? Everybody wants to win the game. But if I'm the first baseman and the ball gets hit to third base and I run to third base to catch the ball, I'm in the third baseman's way. And what else? My base ain't covered.
Yep.
All right. So that's what I tell people. Pick a lane, pick a base that you want to play. I went to school, I graduated from Morehouse, and I went to school with the intent of going into government work. I worked for Maynard Jackson for years. Maynard Jackson and I were very, very good friends. So I learned the process of negotiating. I learned the process of government. I studied it in school. Um, I prepared basically for it. And what I try to get people to understand, this is a job. This is not a reward for services rendered in some other category that has nothing to do with this job. I don't know. Are you a business owner?
I am not a business owner. I
Oh,
do work for a big corporation.
okay, but you know the process.
Yes, sir.
That your company is not going to hire somebody who does not have the background
Yep,
and the skills to do the job that they are hiring for. Is that a fair statement?
that's a fair statement.
So why do we do it with government? Why do we say, this person lived, 2 doors down from my cousin, so I'm going to hire them for a job that they have no background or experience in? You don't do that. Is
Yeah.
that, I mean, would you do
You
that?
you don't. But my only little pushback on that would be like you do want to give someone who may have some experience in that area a chance though, because you never know when you can unearth new talent for the baseball
Okay,
team.
well, let me ask you this. To your point,
Yes, sir.
you woke up this morning and you found out that you need heart surgery. So let's go find a new doctor who's just getting started, who we got to give a break to and let
Yep.
him work on your heart.
Yep.
You gonna do that?
I ain't gonna do that.
All right,
Nope, I
so
want
there
that.
ain't
I
no
want the
difference.
best.
There ain't no difference. There's no difference.
I
If
got you on that
somebody
one.
wants to get a start, tell them to come work with me at the Capitol,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll show him the process. We'll show him or her the process. We'll teach them how it works, and they can learn it and then go do it, as opposed to the way you were
Learning on the job.
suggesting.
Yep, learning on the job.
This is not on the job training.
This is true because it is a lot that's going on. We're in a very precarious time. I do totally agree with you, especially with all the things that are going on at the federal level. The state level is becoming extremely important. Extremely
Exactly.
important.
And so you want somebody that's studied it, that's learned it, that's done it, and then anybody else, I don't discourage anybody from following their dream,
Mm-hmm.
but you need to follow your dream in the proper way so that your dream does not mess up my dream.
Yep. No, I got you on that one. Does
Okay, so
anyone have any?
did I alter your thought process on that?
You did.
Good.
I mean, it's all about making sure you judge the case by case, making sure you make the right choice for that situation for sure.
That's it.
Definitely. And does anyone have any questions? Okay, Jane, I see you have a question. You can come off mute. Let me just take you off mute here so you
Who
can.
who who are we talking to?
This is Jane Williams. Jane, go ahead and
Hey,
identify
Jane.
yourself.
Okay. Oh,
There you go, Jane.
okay,
Hey,
great. Something happened here. Okay, great. Hey, how you doing tonight?
I woke up this morning. I had a good
Hallelujah.
day.
All right, all right. It's gonna be a great day. I'm sorry to hear about your sister, okay?
Yeah, I know. Thank
Okay.
you, though.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Okay, so getting back to this voting process. Okay, now let's start where you and Sam was, right? So you said that okay, it's not an on-the-job training. We must know the process. And is it a process where someone can be on the job too long with it not being effective, with them not being effective?
But that could happen your first term.
Mm-hmm.
It has
Okay.
nothing to do with
Yeah.
how long you're there.
Okay.
And if you want an example of that, there
Yeah.
was a guy that was elected. He beat Billy McKinney. I don't know if that's Cynthia McKinney's dad.
Daddy, yeah.
Yeah.
And when he got elected, the bill that he introduced was he had gone to a restaurant somewhere and he ordered sweet tea at the restaurant. And that restaurant did not sell sweet tea. He came back and introduced legislation that said if you sell tea in a restaurant in Georgia, you have to sell sweet tea. That was
Wow.
the dumbest bill that I had ever seen. And so he was not there a long time. In fact, he did not get reelected.
Oh,
so,
wow.
so the point that I'm trying to make to you is the fact that someone's been there a long time does
Mm-hmm.
not make them incapable
Ineffective.
of doing the job.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's whether they are taking the job seriously, whether they are applying themselves. I don't think it has anything to do with how long you're there. I think the longer you're there, if you're doing the job and you're doing it well, then you as a citizen will want somebody like that there. You
Yes.
want somebody there that knows the process. I would bet, and you can test my theory,
Mm-hmm.
that if you talk to 10 candidates for different positions, 5 out of that 10 probably could not tell you what that position actually is responsible for doing.
Right.
We've
Yeah.
and then because you have people that are running for, they run for everything. They run for an open position. And if it is that you really want to affect policy in certain ways, then you run for the position that allows you to affect policy. You know, you talk to people and they say, I want to, change education. If you want to change education, run for the school board. Why are you running for the legislature? Our primary role in education is to fund it, is to put
Right.
money up. It's not to determine what happens day by day by day by day. And I mean, you can put in legislation to do it, but that's not the role. The role
Mm-hmm.
to change policy in education is at the school board level. And then you have some state pieces as well, but the most part is the school board. If you have people that say, that they want the government, we always hear this term, we need change. I hear it
Mm-hmm.
over and over again. You heard it too. And you
Yes.
say change from what to what? What is it that you want change from? And people will say, well, we need newer people, younger people. But is that what you really need? What you need are people that know how to get the job done
Mm-hmm.
and people who have prepared themselves to do the job. And that could be somebody that's 30, 40, 50 years old, or it could be somebody that's 20 years old if they prepared themselves. So I don't know that age has anything to do with this. I really don't.
Gotcha.
I know people, I was speaking somewhere not too long ago, and a kid asked me the same thing, that something similar. He said, well, Representative Bruce, aren't you getting a little old for this?
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at him and I was like, I tell you what, and some of you know this, I every Tuesday, I won't do it tomorrow because it's too cold, but every Tuesday for the last 5 years, me and a couple other folks, we go over to Sweetwater Creek State Park and we walk those trails. We walk 3.5 miles.
Oh, I saw you last week. I think you was over there.
Yeah,
Wow.
we've done it every Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
And I told this kid, I said, why don't you meet me over at the park? And you walk with us, and let's see which one of us gets tired first. He didn't bring his little sorry butt
I
over
know
there,
it did.
but
Well, well, you know what? I thank you for this conversation tonight. It's been so interesting. I love to hear storytelling. So you have really, piqued my curiosity, and I love that. And just one more thing. So getting with the voting, right?
Mhm.
So I agree with you in reference to, we've come so far with technology that we can't even vote or register to vote on the same day, same day election, same day to vote. And so I agree with that, even just to do voting totally electronically. So how do you feel about some of that, like same day registration
You know, I think we should do whatever we can to make
yeah,
it easier to vote,
to vote? Okay,
Yes.
and
absolutely.
whatever that is.
Mhm.
And what we probably to your specific question, again, I try to stay in my lane. I am not a technician, so I don't know all of the detail of what has to happen
Mhm.
in order to make that happen. But
Mhm.
what I am willing to do is to say, let's go talk to the people that do have that knowledge and
Mhm.
see what it takes. And if it can be done, let's do it.
Right,
And if not, then explain to me why it can't be done.
right.
Um,
Okay.
so I'm for whatever will make it easier for people to vote. And
Yeah,
we need to we need to just do that.
explore.
Voting
Yeah,
should not be as difficult as it is.
I
Okay.
agree with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ron
Mhm.
Booth, you have your hand up.
Thank you. Representative Bruce, if you're elected for Senate District 35 for Georgia, what are the top few things that you plan to accomplish first? And what are the most pressing issues facing our state right now that need to be addressed?
Okay, we kind of addressed that already, I think. But I'm going to deal with voting to make sure that our voting process is done properly.
Mhm.
I'm going to try to get money in the budget that would put additional people at the polling places to make sure that the voting process is done fair and that it's not tampered with. Um, you just have to have more monitors that are specifically there for the purposes of looking and making sure things are going the way they're supposed to go. That's one piece of it. The other piece, I want to do something to make sure also that people are not punished for speaking out about what they're concerned about. Those teachers out in Cobb County that were fired because they spoke out because they had information on the internet, that's crazy. You should not be told that you can't express your concerns and your job be put at risk. So we need to look at voting rights. We need to look at civil human rights. We need to look at teachers and make sure that our teachers are properly compensated for the work they do. Um, One of the things that I was proposing, we've talked about this before, was about pairing teacher salaries to the salaries of a judge. And the idea being, you need as much, if not more, education to be a teacher as you do to be a judge. It's just a different type of education, but it's education nonetheless. And if we had more teachers that were compensated properly and we could get the best at it, we probably wouldn't need as many judges. And so that's something else. But more importantly, you asked me what I want to do. The position is called representative and senator. And, it's just two different names for the same thing. Both of them, you should be listening to people and finding out what it is they want. And then you should be trying to do what you need to do to get those bills passed. And if it's bad legislation, then you need to be trying to get them defeated. So I'm kind of twisting it around a little bit. because I'd like to hear what it is that you want. What is it that you want? And I would bet that one of the main things you want is that somebody will listen to you, and somebody that will take what you say and put it in the process and see whether or not it's something that could be done.
Got you.
That's exactly right. And thank you for that response. And sorry that you had to repeat yourself on some of it.
No, it's no problem, but I hope that I responded to you in a manner that you wanted. I'd love to hear from you,
Absolutely.
just like I heard from that 10-year-old. And
I like that, Representative Bruce. I like that a lot. I like how you are an active listener and not just someone who. And I see the theme, and I really appreciate the theme because I too see it in the community where you have some people who were running for office and not necessarily to serve the people, but maybe to serve themselves. So I appreciate that you bringing that about in a nice way. We got two more questions. I want to make sure I get them in. One of the next one was Patricia, and then Miss Gloria Jenkins is right after that. So Patricia, I'm just going to ask you to unmute yourself, and you can go ahead and ask Representative Bruce your question.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Mr. Bruce, Representative Bruce. Question, and I believe I've asked everyone that has been on this panel since its inception. What are your thoughts, and will you support any HOA reform coming past your desk in regards to SB 106, 107, 108?
Okay, it would depend on what the legislation is. Again, when you talk about HOAs, they serve a purpose. Some of them are a little more overbearing than others. So again, you're asking a general question, but legislation, it depends on what's in that bill. And those of you that have seen legislation, sometimes what's in the bill is not really what you want. And sometimes what you think is in the bill is not really in the bill. So to say whether or not I would support a specific piece of legislation, it would depend on what's in the bill. And if there's legislation around HOAs that you would like to see passed, then I'd like to hear that. I'd like to hear what it is. I have some issues with HOAs, but I also see the purposes they serve. So if you got something real specific, that you want to ask me whether I would support that, yeah, but the way you've asked the question is too general for me to answer it properly. I hope I'm making sense.
No, you made perfect sense. I didn't want to get too specific. I just wanted to just kind of make it aware that there's a lot of momentum in a few bills that are coming across. And you're right.
What specifically is in do you want to see happen in the legislation?
There is a specific part of the bill that's going to control some of the, I believe it's the foreclosure and Osbudman office for homeowners, that they can get some legal help in regards to disputing.
So are you asking me whether or not I would support legislation that would stop HOAs from being able to foreclose on somebody's house because they didn't pay their HOA fees? Is that what you're asking?
The particular amount. Currently, the amount is I believe it's $2,000.
Yes, it is.
So yeah, what we're looking for is an increase. Although, sir, I do have a problem with an entity being able to foreclose on someone's home for $2,000 or for any amount, because I do strongly believe that there should be other remedies than to just take somebody's home for $2,000. So yes, right. I would strongly.
And in a way to deal with that is again, you have to look at the whole picture, okay? And what I would do is introduce legislation that would restrict that from being in your HOA contract, period. When you buy a house in a subdivision that has a HOA, you sign your life away almost when you are closing on your house.
Yes.
And
Uh,
unfortunately, a lot of times when they're so excited about getting the house that they sign, they give you a stack of paper that daggone high, and you're signing, you're signing, you're signing. You're not reading all that stuff.
Right.
So to me, you address that by making sure legally they can't put it in the contract in the first place.
Okay.
And what I would do is
Yes.
require that your admission to the HOA be separate from the closing on your house.
Oh,
Because, that's how I would address it.
thank you.
That I close on my house and then I sign an agreement later with the HOA on my relationship with that HOA. That should not be in your contract at your house, in my opinion.
Thank you.
That's a great
Thank you
point.
so much. Thank you.
I hope
And
that
just
makes sense to you.
Yes,
and
sir. Yes, it does.
that's a great answer, Representative Bruce. And just for clarification, I know Senator Donzella James and I believe Senator Kemp is also, they're all involved in different committee hearings right now at the Capitol, working on that particular issue, because you just got to look at Atlanta News First, and they've been doing a long segment on all the HOAs and how they run amok, and it just depends on who's the president and what's going on and how
Yeah.
they're handling
And,
it.
and, and some of them are good because you have some homeowners who don't maintain their homes and don't do
I
the things
I
that need to
agree.
be done.
I
But
agree too. I agree.
so I just think that should be a separate agreement. It should not be tied to the loan that you took out on your house. I just think that's two separate things.
Yep. Miss Jenkins, Miss Gloria Jenkins, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and have your question for Representative Bruce.
Is Ms. Jenkins there?
She is. Miss Jenkins, do you see how you can unmute yourself? Let's see if she'll unmute. While she tries to unmute, I'll go ahead and just clarify, Representative Bruce. I know we were a few minutes late starting. You okay going a little bit past 8 o'clock?
Yeah, I'm good. And again, I apologize, but you know what I'm dealing with. So.
Oh, yes, sir. No need to apologize for that ever. No, definitely. I just want to be respectful of your time and make
No,
sure
I'm
you're good.
good.
Okay. One of the things that, and you actually making this super easy, which I knew you would because you have so much experience and I respect all the press conferences you've ever done. I looked at a bunch of them over the years. So you know exactly how to speak to the community, and I appreciate you just doing that because one of the things I really want to get out of this experience is for you to be able to just let people know who you are, because I hate when people say things in different realms and stuff. So one of the questions I had was like, when people hear the name Roger Bruce in District 35, and that's Cobb and Fulton County, what do you think they say, and what do you want them to say or hope they would say about you?
Well, I would hope they would say that this is a person that has committed most of his life. Even though I was not in public office my entire life, I've been in public service pretty much since I came here. I
Mhm.
came here in 1971. I graduated from a Catholic military high school for boys,
Wow.
and which was kind of weird because by day they were teaching me to love my neighbor, and at night how to kill him. But but it was interesting, and the school was on a mountaintop in Virginia, and the James River. It was two mountaintops, and the James River ran between the two mountaintops. On one mountaintop was the school I went to, and the other mountaintop was a all-girls school for black girls.
Yeah.
And the James River ran between the two of them. And we could see the Ku Klux Klan down there burning their crosses at the river. And they didn't come up on our side at all. We had guns. It was a military school, so they wasn't
Yeah.
coming up there. But that was my introduction to reality. Okay. And not my introduction, but it was an introduction to reality. I went to, when I was about 13, 14 years old, my mother bought a house along the Long Island Railroad in New York. and there was a tunnel that went up under the railroad.
Mhm.
And on one side of the tunnel was all black, on the other side it was all white. And you knew, don't go under the tunnel.
Right.
One day I just said, the hell with it, and I went under the tunnel. And I was over there for probably about 30 minutes or so, and the police grabbed me. And I went through, well, why are you bothering me? I'm not doing anything, blah, blah, blah. They said, shut up, get in the car. And they took me to this lady's house. And apparently somebody did something to her. And I was on the wrong side of the tunnel. So they took me there to see if she would identify me. And she didn't identify me. She said, no, that's not him. But had she said, yep, that's him, I
Right.
probably wouldn't be here talking to you right now. And so my whole life has been around this kind of thing, where I've been introduced to things that were not right. And I don't care what it is. I served on the Judiciary Committee while I was in the House, and for the entire time I was there. But I'm not a lawyer, and just about everybody on that committee is a lawyer.
Yep, they are.
And when they thought I was a lawyer. That's why they put me on it. And then when they found out I wasn't, they said, "All right, well, he's on it, so leave him there." And but I told him, I said, I don't have to be a lawyer to know what's right and to know what's wrong. And if you do things based on what's right and what's wrong, then you can be successful at it. And I stayed on that committee so long that they got to a point when I was getting ready to retire. They said, you probably know more law than most lawyers do. And they gave me that honorary law degree back there from John Marshall School of Law.
Nice.
And but my whole point in this is that if you are committed to something, commit
Yeah.
yourself to it. The time that I spent with Maynard Jackson, I learned a lot of things from him. And I don't know if you saw, there's a movie out about him called Maynard. And I'm actually in the movie. I don't know if you saw that, but I'm in it.
No.
And they were talking about a period of time when we were sitting in his office, and he had all the bank presidents in his office.
Mm-hmm.
And there were no black people on the board of any bank in Atlanta, none of them. And he was there, he was trying to talk to them about how are you going to be able to do business with black citizens if you don't know what their needs are? And if you don't have any black people on your board to help guide you, how are you going to get that? And one of the bank presidents stood up and he said, well, Mr. Mayor, in all candor, you're not going to tell me who's going to be on the board of my bank. And Maynard was very calm, very cool. And he said, you're right, I'm not. But he called a staff member and he said, Monday morning, you take every dime of the city's money out of his bank.
All
Guess what
right.
happened on Monday morning?
We got a black person on
There
the
was some
board.
black people on the board of that bank. And that was a lesson I'll never forget. We have to do the same kinds of things. You can disagree without being disagreeable.
Yes, sir.
You can't ask me to call the governor a butthole and then expect that he's going to sign your bill into law. That's not going to happen.
Nope.
And that's why I say pick a base, play your base. My base as a member of the General Assembly is to be a diplomat, is to be able to get bills passed, get bills defeated, get money in the budget, stop money from going places it shouldn't go, and creating the relationships to make all of those things happen. That's the job. And, if people can't do that job, why would you hire them? And another perfect example of that, do you remember Hosea Williams?
Yes, I do.
Oh, yeah.
Jose was the best hell raiser I ever met. That boy could raise the best hell. But that was his job. And
Yep.
then he tried to become a state representative, and he hated it with a passion. He only served one term. And he hated it because he was not a diplomat. He was a hell raiser. That was not his base. And he wanted to play a different one. And so that's why I'm saying, as you select people to go into these roles, to go into these different positions, find people that first of all know what the job is, and that they've demonstrated that they have the skills and the experience to do that job. And if they don't, then don't hire them. Don't hire them because they went to school with your cousin or they live down the street from your pastor.
Yeah.
We got to stop that.
Yep.
You hiring them for a job that has a specific skill set, and they should have the skills to do it. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, sir, you did. Ms. Gloria, I heard you off mute. Go ahead and ask Representative Bruce your question.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Representative Bruce, how are you?
I woke up. I'm
Came
good.
across this situation just recently. I was visiting a senior residential facility. The shutdown was maybe in about its 20th day. And people were so concerned, those who were on Section 8, that their vouchers would not be paid and they would have to find some place else to live. Now, I know that that money is federal money. My question is, how much of that Voucher 8 money comes through the state, and is there any way we can have these housing authorities keep an X amount of dollars so that they can cover these vouchers? I know I checked with East Point and they have the reserve to cover, but there's some others I'm not sure about. I
Right.
work with seniors and we want to be sure our seniors are covered. Is there anything you foresee at the state level that you can be able to help?
Well,
Make
what I
this-
foresee is that you and I probably need to have a further conversation and get more details about how people are being impacted and in what way they're being impacted, and then see, put in requests. Again, I don't want to give people false hopes.
Right,
For me to say that yes, there's a way to do it. There's always a way to do it, but we have to figure out the right way to do it.
right.
And so what I would suggest is that we spend a little more time talking about it and figuring
Okay.
out what specifically we could go after. And and we don't have to wait till the session starts.
Oh,
We
no.
can, as soon as this election is over with, we can start right then and
Right
and get into the details of what needs to be done and find out, how to do it.
Okay.
One of the, just to give you another thought process, seniors, and I fall into that classification now too. I guess I'm the senior that I used to talk about, but the the net effect of it is that we have to put our heads together because sometimes the solution may not be in the government. The government is not the answer to every problem that we have.
It's
And
not.
there may be some outside funds. I am also the chairman of the board of the Fulton Atlanta Community Action Authority. And we we go all over trying to find money that we can use to help seniors who can't pay their mortgage, they can't pay their utility bills. They come and they see us, and we help them until they can get back on their feet. That
Right.
is not government. And so that's what I'm saying is that the solution to every problem may not be in the government. If it is, then we should go after it. But if we talk about what the problems really are and what's causing them, we may find that there are sources outside of government that can help. I hope
All right.
is that
You
making sense to
a
you?
lot of make a lot of good sense, and I'll be ready to sit with you when you win this seat.
All right.
Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Gloria.
You're welcome.
For context, Ms. Gloria is one of those ladies that work really hard for seniors and for the community.
I know her. She does work hard. And seniors, after you get to a certain point in life, people have contributed their whole life to making it better for other people. And that's not the time to give up on them. That's the time to help them. They've com-
Absolutely.
and there are a lot of people that forget that they didn't get to this point in their life on their own. Somebody preceded them. Somebody took the hits and took the wounds, and some of them are in the grave for what you're capable of doing now. And we have to remember that. And I really get somewhat offended when people say that somebody has to go because of their age. I just don't believe that to be the case. I know some people 20 years younger than me that don't have the ability to do some of the things that I do. And I'm not
Absolutely.
knocking that group. I'm just saying that they should not knock me because, I
Right.
happen to have lived as long as I have. As long as I'm capable, if I wake up in the morning and I still have my ability to think,
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. And I'm going to share one other thing with you, if you don't mind,
No, go
that
ahead.
because you asked me about me, and let me, some of you on here may be aware of this, but 2004. And used to not want to talk about this, but in 2004, I was giving a speech at the school board trying to get a new school to replace Westlake High School because the building was old and decrepit. In the middle of that speech, I felt something pop in my head and didn't know what it was. It just didn't feel right. And all of, you're a guy, we don't volunteer to go to the doctor. We just don't do that. But that day, my wife was there at the school board.
Yeah.
And I told her something doesn't feel right. I need to go to the hospital. And the hospital at that time was right across the street from where the school board was. We went over there and we were going through the do you have insurance routine. And in the middle of that, I passed out. I woke up about 3 weeks later and I was in a coma. I had a blood vessel burst in my brain. And when I woke up, she said the first thing I said was, "Did we get to school?" That's what I remembered last. And but when I came out of that, I had it was pretty rough. I was going through something that they called deja vu syndrome,
Mm.
and you could see things happen, and it would happen over and over and over again. And also, I was in a situation where I could not read. I knew what an A was, I knew what a B was, but I couldn't put the sounds together to create the words. And what happened, you have arteries, you got veins, and you have capillaries. In the middle of, and the capillaries hold them apart, but I was born without the capillary in that space.
Mm.
So without the capillary, they formed a mass. And when they formed the mass, the blood couldn't get through, and that's what popped. So they literally had to go in my brain and take out the mass and seal off the ends. So they told my wife I probably would never be able to function again. They declared me legally disabled and said that probably somebody was going to have to take care of me forever. And but doctors don't get the last say.
The man
Okay,
upstairs.
somebody above them. And my son was graduating from school that year, and from Westlake, and people knew that I was sick, but they didn't know how sick I was. And they asked me to speak at the graduation. And, everybody was telling me, no, man, you can't do that. You got to get well, you got to heal, blah, 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 blah. And everybody was telling me what I could not do. My son came to me and he said, Dad, if you don't want to speak at this graduation, I'm good. But if you're not doing it because mommy said you can't do it, or because your friends say you can't do it, you haven't been telling me the truth. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, you told me no one can set my limitations for me but me. So what you gonna do? Guess what I did? I spoke at that graduation. And it was a really weird situation because I'm sitting up on the stage and I heard them introduce me, but there was no reaction from the audience, nothing. And I heard them introduce me again, no reaction from the audience. That was that deja vu thing.
happening
playing.
right there.
I heard it 3 times. They only introduced me once. And the third time, it was the audience, you know. So I told my wife, I said, sit where I can see you. And if I'm going off the deep end, give me one of those and I know to shut up. She didn't give it to me. I got up there. I couldn't tell you to this day what I said, but whatever it was, it worked. And I did not let my son down. I'm telling you all of that because I want you to know what kind of person I am. I do not quit. I do not give up, and I do not allow other people to tell me what I can and cannot do. And I will encourage everyone. You know, your mom, your dad probably told you go to school, get a good education, so you go beg somebody for a job. They didn't say it that way, but that's what it amounted to.
Yeah.
And I taught my kids, you go to school, you get a good education, so you could do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And that's the person that I am. And I hope that I responded to your question.
You just blew me away with that one, sir. That's all I gotta say. I mean, that is, I can't even respond to that. I'll just say I appreciate you sharing that because that is
Yeah.
deeply personal. I mean, I'll tell you, moment of transparency myself. My wife is my rock. She has helped me take care of my parents. My mom has had different health challenges herself. And so I know exactly how hard that is and how
Yeah.
much of a challenge that is. So it just, again, the level of respect for you going through that and doing that is through the roof. Again,
Yeah.
it's like no one should question your integrity, especially if they give you a chance to just even hear this, understand who you are as a person. It's not the nefarious things that they want to say. It's just who you are as a person. So I appreciate you for sharing that because again, I know it's tough, it's challenging.
It
But
is. And I went
yeah,
through therapy. I learned how to read all over again.
yeah,
I'm in the process of writing a book now. And, you know, it is a challenge every day
yeah,
in public service because people make up stuff.
yeah,
You know, they have their own agenda. They'll make up something and try to make whatever they make up reality. But reality is truth. And and to the question of what do I want people to think about me, I want them to think that if even though he disagreed with me, he listened to me. Even though, you know, he may not have wanted to do, he told me the truth and said he wasn't going to do it.
yeah,
And there are times when you have to tell people, no, I'm not going to do that. Um, and then there are other times when you have to say, well, maybe you're right, and I'm going to change my thought, and I'm going to do it your way because your way appears to be more right than my way. And and that's what this is all about. You know, this is not about me; it's about us. It's about making sure that people are represented properly and that I'm playing the bass that you hired me to play. And
sure.
you know, and I hope that you will think about that as you go vote in the future. You know, don't hire people to play a bass that they're not equipped to play. And if you do hire them, then let them play the bass and don't expect them to do something else.
Yeah, yeah. We got a question from Ron, and then Representative Bruce. I want to give you a chance to wrap up so that
Okay.
you can get some
And
time. Ron, go ahead.
yeah, just a couple of quick comments and then a question. My first comment, I like Sam, I'm completely impressed and blown away with the story you just shared. And I especially like the story you shared about how you handled the children and bringing them down there. That's so special. And I
Hmm.
appreciate hearing that as well as a lot of the other stuff that you shared. My question is, if one of the cities in your district is faced with a situation similar to what happened in Chicago, Portland, or Memphis, and that is ICE disappearing people or the National Guard being deployed against the wishes of the governor, what would you or could you do as a state senator to address it?
Well, you know, the things you're talking about are federal. What I could do is speak up, speak out, try to organize others to speak up and speak out. I don't understand why people are afraid of Donald Trump. I flat out don't get it. Um, I I blast him every chance I get, and but I don't believe that we should be using our military against our citizens. I don't think this man is qualified to be the president of the United States. I don't think that today I heard that he uh, gave a pardon to all of the people that helped him try to overthrow the government and to change our voting process. I would love to see Georgia, which the likelihood of it is slim, but I would love to see Georgia stand up and say, Mr. President, we're not going to tolerate that here in Georgia. And I would not mind leading a group of people to do that. I would be honored to lead a group of people to do that, to be honest with you. But what specifically as a state we could do, senators are one of 56. Representatives are one of 180. And you have to get a whole bunch of people who are not like you or in the same party with you to stand up. But the way to do that is to find common grounds. There are things that this whole thing with SNAP right now, I don't know if people realize, but almost 60, close to 61% of the people getting that aid are white. They ain't black. And if it was differently, it probably wouldn't be no SNAP. Okay.
Nope.
So what we have to do is figure out a way as a group to form an alliance with those people who are now seeing that they are in the same boat we're in and get them to align with us to fight against the people that are doing these things that are wrong. And I think that that's conversation. That's us sitting down with them and showing them what we have in common, as opposed to what we don't have in common, and then trying to get people to act in that manner.
Well, I appreciate that answer and thank you for that. And you may not remember, but back when Shirley Franklin was mayor, we took a picture together.
Okay.
And I'm dropping that picture in the chat. We're the bookends in that picture.
Okay.
You on the left, me on the right.
And
thank you for your comments. I appreciate it.
I'm trying to make it big enough for me to see it right now. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, nice. So I got two questions to start wrapping this up, Representative Bruce. And one of them is bringing it home to South Fulton, which will probably make up the bigger part of your district. As you know, we're just going through municipal elections. We have what I would like to say a interesting group of council and mayor, and I know you were instrumental in the creation of our city. And I think you just went, there you go, you're back on camera. And what are your thoughts once you become a senator? What are your thoughts on how you would like to help the city correct some of the things that's going wrong? Like some of the citizens are complaining about development and data centers, and how would you best use your role as a new senator for that year before you're up for re-election to help not just city of South Fulton, but let's just expand it to the cities in the whole South Fulton region, Palmetto,
Yeah.
city.
Well,
We're all gonna be facing the same development and data center issues.
Well, the issue again with the data centers, I hear some people say that the data centers provide revenue for their city, and that's why they want it. I hear others are concerned about whether or not it's damaging the energy consumption in the area. You hear all kind of stuff, but most of what we're hearing is somebody repeating what they heard somebody else say. And so the way I dealt with that, I commissioned a group of students over in Georgia Tech and it's all the different schools. And it came about as a result of a conversation I was having with one of the executives at Grady Hospital. And what I'm going to do is make it available. But she worked with students, and I asked them to do a study about the impact the data centers really have on a community. And I just thought that they were going to do something there locally, but they ended up getting students from all over the country looking at this issue. And they have a report that they are going to present to me with the actual data that says what the real impact is. And what I'd like to do, maybe instead of them just presenting it to me, because I haven't seen it yet, they can present it to you and whoever else you might want to have present when they present it, so that we have a real sense of what the impact is from the data centers, and then go from there, as opposed to me listening to what one person says, you listen to what somebody else says. Let's find out what the data says, and then act accordingly. And if there's a if there's a situation where we need to put data centers in a certain area and require that if we put a data center in a particular area, that there's a commitment from the power company before that center goes up, that there's a commitment from the anybody that's providing services to support that, that those services are committed to ahead of time, and that whatever those services are don't impact any community in the area. I don't know all the answers to it. I'm not an engineer, but if we look at the data and then act according to what the data says, I think that would be a more intelligent way to deal with it.
Well, thank you for that answer. Yes, we would love to be a part of that process, because I think it would really help a lot of members in the community. I know me personally, Jane, Ron, a whole bunch of folks that are intimately involved would love to be able to have some facts and to have real conversation with the community members.
Okay, so are you on the same thought process that a lot of the data that we're getting is coming from people who have not done any data search?
It is a lot of what you see on the news. I mean, I'm sure there are some people who haven't done research, but I'm also sure there are people who have seen research, and they're like myself, because I've dug into some of the research. And to be clear, I'm not anti-data center. I'm more like put it in the right place and right time, because I myself, my job, and all of us to some extent at some point in time will need to use AI or are using AI to do our jobs.
Well, my personal concern with a data center, and this is purely a personal concern, is they are putting them primarily in communities of color.
Yes, that is my concern as well too.
That's my concern. And when I look at that, I'm also a practical person. I told you I went to a military school, so I understand the concept of military science. And one of the first things they do is attack your data source. They don't want you to be able to share information. They don't want you to be able to communicate with each other. And with all of the things happening around the world right now, it's more and more likely every day that somebody is going to look at 9/11 and say, let's do that somewhere else.
Yep.
And if all of the data centers are in our community, then we the ones going to get blown up.
Yep, and impact.
So I would prefer that we need the data centers, but I would prefer them not to be next door to me.
I agree.
100%. For that reason. But again, I want to look at all of the data and make sure that whatever decision we make, that it's an intelligent decision and not something that we just are reacting to what somebody says as opposed to what the data says.
I agree. All right. So, Representative Bruce, you have been so generous with your time. I really, really appreciate you. I want to give you a chance to wrap up. I do have one thing that I like to do, which is a quirky question. And before I ask my quirky question, I want to make sure I ask everyone in the audience, anyone else have any last minute questions? If not, I'm just going to let Representative Bruce wrap up. So I see no hands up. I'll go forward. So Representative Bruce, one of the things that I think you've really shared a lot of your personality. But one of the things that I was thinking about asking you, and because I myself was thinking about what my answer would be, and is what, in your opinion, is the scariest animal for you? And before you answer, I'll tell you what mine is real quick. And I thought about this, and I was trying to be realistic. It would be a cheetah or a lion. Any big cat would be it for me. I think I'm fine with alligators and all the other ones, but like those, that's it for me. What about you?
Well, I never really thought about that, but I probably, if I had to pin down to one, it would be a spider, a
Yeah,
poisonous spider,
that is true.
because they sneak up on you and you don't even know they're there. A spider can be in your pocket and you not know he's in your pocket.
That is true. That is a good one. That is a really good one. I like that one a lot. Um, that yeah, it's right up there with snakes and big cats and stuff, which I know
Yeah,
some.
you can see a cat coming. You can you can see a snake coming, but you can't see a spider.
That is true.
Spider could be in your hair and you not know it's there.
I have no clue. No clue. All right, Representative Bruce. Any parting words you want to give to folks who may not have voted yet? I know we have a audience here, a mighty audience here, as my friend Robert Dawson like to say. But we also were streaming live on YouTube, so who knows how many other people are seeing this or will see this. Any closing remarks for those that haven't yet voted? And also, can you just remind them of the dates and times associated with this
Yeah,
special election?
voting is already started, early voting, and it will continue until the 14th. And then election day is on the 18th. And the polling places have been posted all over the place. It's quite a few of them. I can't name all of them, but
C.T. Martin Recreation Center is one.
well,
North
well,
Library.
I'm talking about for an election day.
Oh, election day. Okay.
Yeah, C.T. Martin is early voting. The library at Wolf Creek is on Enon Road.
Mm-hmm.
That's another one. And then out in Cobb County. And you know, in terms of parting words, I would just ask that people take this position as a job, as a real job, not a reward for services rendered in a totally unrelated capacity. And that you look at this as your opportunity to have somebody there that knows the process, that has demonstrated that they know the process, has demonstrated that they know how to work across the aisle, how to get things done. And then take the period of time between now and the primaries next year to vet whoever chooses to run. But take your time. And if somebody says, I'm going to do something, ask them, how are you going to do it? And if they can't tell you that, then move on, move to the next thing. I would also ask people, instead of having all of these opportunities for people to come as a group, getting all the candidates in the same place at the same time, I really don't think that's the best way to do it. I think you should take your time, have them there one at a time, just like you're doing now, and ask them questions. You don't have to ask them all the same questions because they're not going to all give you the same answer. And if they give you an answer, then build on that answer. If they say, I'm going to get you a hospital, ask them how. If they say they're going to improve economic development, ask them how. If they say I'm going to improve education, ask them how. You know, don't let them get away with just saying it. Ask them how.
Right. Right. And say you do win next year. I know one of the things you probably will stress that you want to be accessible. So I know you'll work. I know members of your team. I know you'll work with them to get a newsletter out, get
Oh yeah.
appointment types out. times out for you to be able to be accessible. Because I get that feeling from you, Representative Bruce, that one of the things you pride yourself on is listening and wanting to be reached. So definitely look forward to that if you're successful. And also having a discussion about data center reports. Definitely, please, whatever it takes, let us know how we can.
Okay, do me a favor. When we get off of this line, send me all your contact information.
Yes, sir.
And what I'll do is put you in touch with the lady that commissioned all of these students on my behalf.
Hmm.
And then we'll set up a time and you can invite everybody that's on if you want.
Yep.
And we'll find a location and hear what the report says.
Yes, sir. Look forward to doing that. All right, will do. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Representative Bruce, for your time, and we appreciate you again in this difficult time that you spending time with us, a whole hour and a half. So thank you again, sir. And I wish
Thank
you
you.
luck in your
And
campaign.
thanks for letting me come on.
Oh, anytime. Appreciate you.
Okay.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
everyone for spending your evening with us. And again, go vote November 18th. And consider the candidate that spent a whole hour and a half with you all and really opened up himself to us in a deep way. Okay. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
All right. You guys take care.
All right. Bye.